This is First Up with Kane Cornes. Thanks to Sportsbet, I'm Sarah, Olle and Kane. We head straight to the MCG, which is where we find you. Two old foes in Carlton and Essendon, locking horns until the final seconds. The Blues just holding on and coming out on top, keeping those finals aspirations alive.
They did, didn't they? But not without some hearts in their mouths. There's Akers kicking an epic goal. Some of the last quarter moments, you thought it was over here. With Zach Williams saluting to the Carlton fans and sending that into the second row of the stands, but just thought the Bombers didn't give up. Now, Martin was allowed to be the loose behind the ball because Chincotta was leaving him to go and tag Zach Merritt, and he became really dangerous. I just thought Dersman's game was enormous. It won't show up on the stat sheet, but sometimes the stat sheet lies. He went forward and took this mark, kicked a big goal. I thought it was his best game for the Bombers. I just thought some of his physical efforts were huge, and there's the relief for the Blues with a much needed win. They started so strongly. They were on fire in the first quarter, addressing the issues that had plagued them for the majority of the year, and that was their ability to transition to footy. They fixed that, but their second halves, in particular, the third quarter, is still a major issue for them.
What about the game of Tom de Koning? It was colossal. I mean, 11 years Todd Goldstein's junior, and didn't he run him ragged, and just confirm why he is still one of the hottest and most wanted signatures in the league at the moment?
Yeah, I was just chatting to Jack Silvani in the change rooms. He said, there's blank check for this guy. I mean, there's a level to that. I think the Saints are offering him a blank check, but you're right. I mean, Goldie's 36, so what did we expect? Probably this. But I think he really sensed that, and he sensed the vulnerability to Tom and had an enormous impact. It wasn't just his around-the-ground stuff, it was his ability from the ruck work. His score involvements had nearly 10 of those, and if he didn't play tonight, they probably lose by 2 or 3 goals.
So the Blues now sit in 11th spot. They're 2 games out of the 8. Let's take a look at their next 5 matches, because the first 3 you'd say are very winnable, Kane. Then it gets tough, Collingwood and Brisbane to come.
So the next 3, I mean, they've just got to sort this out against bottom 6 teams. So I think they will win those and should win those pretty convincingly. Will that answer any questions that we've got about them? Probably not, because they should be winning those games. Then it gets a bit more challenging for them. But you never know. You get some momentum. You get Harry Mackay back into the side and get him firing, sort some of your issues out, and that was the way they moved the football, and in particular their kicking, which has just been so poor this year, and they'll be feeling a lot better about themselves than they were, a month or so ago if we're fast forwarding to that. So sort out West Coast this week and get themselves to even on the ledger and try and make a run at it in the back portion of the season.
What did you make of Sam Durham's bump on Adam Cerra? For me, a bit of a rogue action. We don't see this all too much, do we? And he was lucky in the end, Durham, that there was no concussion for Cerra.
Sarah, I think rogue's a good word. I think it's kind. I think it was stupid. I think it was dangerous. I think it put your opponent in one of the more treacherous and dangerous positions that any opponent has been in this year, and to only focus on the player in that moment when the ball is there to win in dispute was just a strange action, and one that, as you said, he is so lucky that Cerra is not in hospital with a spinal issue or injury tonight. That could so easily have happened. We're past this. We're past that action, and don't compare it to Tom Stewart. Completely different. Noah Anderson's head wasn't anywhere near the contact that Tom Stewart made with him. Durham's head is over the football. Cerra's head is over the football. He's in a vulnerable position. Durham comes in with no thought to win the ball, but to bump. We all love Sam Durham. Don't get me wrong. We love the way that he plays, but this was dangerous, and he is just so lucky that he's only looking at a 1-match suspension and not a serious issue and injury to his opponent.
Did you have any issue with the way that the Blues conducted themselves? I mean, it took some 10 minutes, I think it was, for Adam Cerra to come off the ground and get a head injury assessment. Did the Blues fail him somewhat? I know he was kind of saying, I'm okay, but that's what a player is going to say in that situation. Yeah,
so we checked with them tonight, and they said they did everything by the book. They checked with him straight away. They then left him to take the kick. But to me, any doubt, just get him off. I mean, we've seen what happened with Lachie Schultz. If there is any doubt, if it's a significant issue like that, a confronting issue, just get them off. I mean, that's the first thing that you would do. So whilst the Blues will say by the book they probably did everything right, I just think if you're in any doubt, get them off straight away and work out if there's an issue. If not, great, and get him back on like they did eventually. But I agree, I think it just took too long.
I love how plucky the Bombers have been this year. They keep on going until that final siren, and they're doing it while blooding talent. Tonight, their 8th debutant in Lemon Lual, and this was a beautiful moment pre-match, his father handing him his AFL jumper.
I think this is a day for Lemon. His dream has become true, so your dream is going to be true today. Lemon, I'm very proud of you, man. And this is your jumper. Wear it with honor and pride of the Bombers.
So that's his father there, Thomas, handing over the first jumper. And didn't he wear the jumper with pride? Kane Lemon joining that prestigious club, the first kick, first goal. And it's moments like this, you do have to step back sometimes and realise these are the best bits of footy, aren't they?
Oh, goosebumps. Look at it. Absolute goosebumps. Just the joy of that. And well done. That was a big goal. It was their first goal. It was a clutch goal because they needed it desperately. He played a bit of wing, and you can see the attributes that he's got, speed and power, and he was actually really smart the way that he positioned himself a couple of times tonight. So I'm with you. I said 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I got smashed for it, that the Bombers are on the right track. I think there's so many things lining up well for them. And yes, it was scrappy tonight. Yep, there was a number of missed handballs. They overused the football at times, but they don't have a ruckman. Their injury list is so long. No Reid, no Mackay, no Ridley, no Redmond behind the ball. For them to fight and scrap as well as they did in the last 2 weeks against, certainly the reigning premiers Brisbane and a pretty good side in the Blues tonight, I think the Bombers fans should be really proud of the efforts that their team is putting in.
From the MCG to Hands Oval in Bunbury. That's where North Melbourne had a home match today against West Coast. And really the heat was on Alistair Clarkson's team after selling this home game. They got the job done, 4-1 in the final quarter, Kane, but it was unconvincing at times, wasn't it?
Oh my goodness, this had disaster written all over it. I mean, 18 points down, 11 minutes into the last quarter, and finally they kicked into gear. Now, they will be relieved, and these are some of the last quarter moments, and they were good enough to execute, and some of their star players, in particular, Zerha stood up and kicked a couple of goals. We'll see his contested mark and his big goal. That's it here. So great moments from him after a quiet game. That's the good, and actually won a game of footy, and winning is great, and you need that winning feeling. But I hope they treat this like a loss, because this was a team that they should be beating, talent for talent, by 6, 7, 8 goals. That's how far in advance they should be with where their list is at, yet they're in danger of losing this game. Now, if you look at the inside 50s, minus 22, if you look at the inaccuracy by the Eagles, this is a game that on paper they lost, and they should be treating it that way. So I hope Alistair Clarkson is really coaching this performance hard, and they're not getting seduced by what was a soft win in the end. And these are some of the missed opportunities from the Eagles, who just could not get it through the big stick, Sarah.
It was contagious at times and frustrating. I was pulling my hair out on the couch. They were 0-8 to begin the match. They got going, Kane, in the second and third terms, and you thought, here we go. An upset is certainly brewing, and 18 points up in that final term. I'm just wondering, it's a young side. Are they still figuring out how to win a match, how to close one out? Because to me, they just shouldn't be dropping a match when they've got that much ascendancy.
Yeah, well, I think you look at it and you go, we did everything right. Like, we did absolutely everything right. And once again, they were monstered by Sherry in the ruck, who was enormous. So to be able to combat that and give themselves that many inside 50s and that many scoring opportunities, it was almost like what Chris Fagan said on Friday night against Adelaide. Well, what do you want? We've done everything right. We just weren't able to finish. And that was the same for, clearly the Eagles are a different stage than Brisbane, but that was the case again today.
Time now for Volcano.
Well, Sarah, Adelaide changed their logo in the off-season. This is what their new logo looks like. It's a nice logo. The Adelaide Crows, a bit of a revamp, which I don't mind, but they should have changed it to this. They should have changed it to the Adelaide Ducks, because they are the new Hawthorn when it comes to milking high free kicks. I couldn't believe this. So this is Peatling. There's one. He won 5 free kicks, 4, and Lachie Neale says exactly that. That's ordinary. You're lifting your arm. So clearly, this has been a strategy, a technique that Adelaide have worked on. There's Berry. Thank goodness the umpire didn't get sucked into that one, but they did 9 times. So they won 9 high free kicks. As I said, Peatling 5. There's King. What's he trying to do that for? And Berry again, like just automatic instinct to when they win the football, they drop and then they lift the arm. Peatling again. So it's the Adelaide Ducks. Well done to them if they can pull it off. here's Miller putting his head over the footy and ducking into the tackle, but the umpires must be aware of this tactic, like they should be with Hawthorn and other teams that have exploited this. It's a clear strategy from Adelaide that worked. 9 high frees would nearly be a record. The Adelaide Ducks and the umpires should be aware of it from here on in.
I mean, look at you. You've had a few days off to freshen up and you're coming back all creative. Do you like what the Crows are doing though, Kane? They're in third now and it looks like for the first time under Matthew Nicks, they're finals bound.
Yeah, I said probably from 2 rounds into the season that they're the real deal, and I needed to see it against a very good side. Now, you could argue that they should have lost this game, as Chris Fagan said after the game, but credit to them. Started this last quarter, they were clutch, and their key players were clutch. Ben Keys was clutch. The captain, Jordan Dawson, watch his first 3 disposals of the last quarter. They all lead to goals. He takes a hanger himself and kicks an absolute screamer from 50. So I thought their big players came to play when the game was on the line in tricky conditions against a good side, and that's what I needed to see. So yeah, I don't know if they're premiership contenders, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing in a prelim final this year.
So the Crows, or the Ducks as you're calling them, are flying. A team that certainly isn't at the moment though is the Giants. For mine, they're in a bit of a spot of bother. They're dropping games they shouldn't, and they did again in Canberra against Port Adelaide. This was their coach Adam Kingsley post-match. There's a lot of issues there.
I think we might have generated 15 inside 50s off front half turnovers and scored 1 goal 3.
So I was just working out that short game leading pattern.
It's our attack tonight. It was everything. Back half, front half, entry, back half turnovers, giveaways, you name it. We've got to work on it.
So I nearly turned this game off at halftime and put on my favourite movie, Dirty Dancing, Sarah. That's how bad it was. So if you knew nothing about these two teams, and so no history, you were new to the game, you sat down and pressed play, you would go, these are 2 bottom 4 teams. That's what it looked like to me. Now, there was some star players that dragged Port Adelaide over the line, none more so than Butters and Rosie. I thought Bergman was just enormous. I thought Radaglia was terrific. But the Giants have got issues. He looks beaten, he looks broken, because it's not just one area that they need to tidy up, it's everything. Their midfield is impotent. Their forward, they couldn't have a winner forward of the ball. Hogan is not the player he was last year. Clearly that's a result of their inability to move the football. The turnovers was I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I think they're done. I think I'm calling it that there's too much evidence and inconsistencies to say that the Giants are going to be a feature like we probably thought they were at the start of the year. And if it wasn't for Taylor and Buckley, I mean, Taylor played the perfect game. Like you couldn't play better than what Sam Taylor played. So they had that going for them. He played on Port Adelaide's best player, Georgiades. He's kept him to 8 and 1 goal. And Buckley, his running mate, was just as good. So 27 intercept disposals between them. Taylor took 7 intercept marks on his own. He had 19 touches, went at 100%. If those two didn't play, they lose the game by 6, 7, 8 goals in a low-scoring affair. So fortunately for Adam Kingsley, he's got those 2. Finn Callaghan comes back, but I just think there's too many issues to sort this out this deep into the season.
Learning new things about you. Dirty Dancing, nobody puts
movie.
baby in the corner. But let's get on to Luke Beveridge's Dogs, because we're talking about them, or we're talking them up, I should say, all the time as a team that could contend and challenge. But facts are facts. They're sitting outside of the 8th in 9th position, and against the top 8 teams, they leave a lot to be desired, Kane. I mean, look at that, 1 and 6, and then they beat up against the lesser sides. Yeah,
they do, and that they will get on a run, you watch, because their draw is soft. They play 9 out of 12 at Marvel, a ground that they play really, really well. But are they genuine contenders with a record like that? Well, they should be, because their list is, if not the best and most talented list in football, it's probably in the top 2 or 3. Sam Darcy comes back, so that's going to help. But I just think too often they start the season slow, they'll get on a run late, but they won't finish top 4 because they've left it too late. And if you're not finishing top 4, it's very difficult to win the premiership. So it's just history repeating. And they're going to re-sign Luke Beveridge. I don't know why. I would just be waiting and getting more evidence until the end of the final series to go, well, you know what? This list is a top 4 list. If we're not consistently finishing that way, then it has to be a coaching issue for a long period of time. But they're going to be tipped into re-signing him, and you're right, they sit outside the 8, 6 and 6, which is really disappointing for a list as talented as this.
Let's get to another talented list, and let's get to Geelong, because they were pretty gutsy against the Suns. They really fought this one out to the bitter end in pretty feral conditions down at GMHBA Stadium. There was no Bailey Smith. We'll get to the late out soon, but It led the way for Max Holmes to put on a masterclass, Kane. 40 disposals. He was absolutely everywhere. And I want to take you back to a time where there were comparisons from his skipper, Patrick Dangerville, calling Max Holmes a bit like Chris Judd. This was your reaction at the time. Let's have a look and then let's get your reaction today.
Patrick Dangerfield has said that Max Holmes could be the best player in the competition, Jared. I want to read this to you. He said he's got phenomenal endurance.
Yep.
He's also got electric speed.
Yes, yep.
He's compared him to Judd. Says they haven't played him as a stoppage player yet, but he could very well do that well. He said, I believe he could be the best player in the competition at some stage. He truly could. Now, my initial reaction was to fall off my chair. Did you cut off the end bit? Did I save myself with the end bit, or was that a selective edit? Well, there was a few people, and maybe I was one of them, laughing at Patrick Dangerville for those comments. But he's right. We're wrong. Hand up, Danger. You saw something that perhaps some of us didn't, because 40 touches. He had 10 clearances. So there's the stoppage bit that Danger was referring to back in 2022. Unbelievable. He's putting together some sort of season. And when Bailey Smith isn't there, I love star players going, you know what, I'm just going to have to do a little bit extra tonight to make up for the 30 touches that Bailey Smith would have got. That's the good. If you're Damien Hardwick, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's no Bailey Smith. Go and let Atkins beat you. Let Mullen beat you. Let O'Connor beat you. Don't let Max Holmes beat you, which is what he did. You've got Tuke Miller sitting right there, who's as good a run with player as we've seen and can also hurt you the other way with a huge motor that can match Holmes. And he's just allowed Maxi to run around on GMHBA and getting 40 and 10 clearances, 888 metres gained. And he just sat back in the coach's box going, no worries, you go ahead and get your 3 Brownlow votes. It was strange coaching for me.
And you're still yet to win down there, Dimmer and his sons. I think they're 9-0. But when it comes to Bailey Smith, laid out, he was pointing to his hamstring before the match, and you're not going to take any risk with a player who's in Brownlow medal contention. But today we learnt from Mitch Cleary, reporting for Channel 7, that on Thursday morning, AFL CEO Andrew Dillon, he went for a little powwow at Bailey's Torquay pad. He was there alongside Chris Scott and some other senior officials from Geelong, just having a bit of a chat around his behaviour recently. We know those social media comments referring to nose beers. I mean, clearly we're loving everything that Bailey is doing on the field, but just a little reminder just to rein it in a bit. What did you make of that situation with Andrew Dillon heading down the highway?
I absolutely love it. Now, Andrew Dillon hasn't been complimented very much this year, nor has the leadership of the AFL, but this is just outstanding leadership, because you've got to understand, there's no Dustin Martin anymore. He is arguably the most marketable and biggest name in football. And if he's at risk of bringing the game into disrepute, just in terms of some reputational stuff and influencing young players in perhaps a negative way, why not go down there and just say, hey, we love everything about you. We love your marketability. You can be as big as you want to be. Just would love it if you could tidy up a few things around the edges. I think it's outstanding leadership. I think it's going to have a big payoff, not only for Geelong and Bailey himself individually, from a marketing piece and just his standing in the game, but also for the AFL and bringing the younger fans through who are huge fans of Bailey Smith. So I just think it's terrific from Andrew Dillon, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen more regularly with players as important to the game as what Bailey Smith is.
As in, you wouldn't be surprised to see Andrew Dillon having more one-on-one conversations with the stars of the game?
100%.
Yeah.
He does it with the coaches. Like, he has them for dinner. Why not do it with, it can't be every player, there's 800 plus of them, but you know the ones that are important. You know the ones that move the needle from a merch point of view, from a ratings point of view. You know the ones that are going to draw a crowd and audiences on Thursday and Friday nights in prime time, like Bailey Smith did against his former team, the Western Bulldogs, a few weeks ago. He would know that, and I think it's really important that he does.
Time now for the temperature test, thanks to Sportsbet. And Kane, there are 3 teams that are emerging as the ones to beat. No surprises there. Geelong, Collingwood and Brisbane, they're running hot.
Yeah, I think we're down to 9 in terms of teams that can make the 8. I think we're probably down to 3 that can genuinely win it. I'd be tempted to put Hawthorn in there and Gold Coast, but there it is. The rest underneath the second lot there are in trouble, and I think they're going to clearly miss the 8. So starting to get towards the business end where we really narrow the focus of who can genuinely compete for this year's premiership.
Can you peak too early? I mean, Collingwood are just running so hot at the moment, and you compare it to someone like Brisbane, Kane, I feel like they've got a lot of room for improvement.
Absolutely, you can peak too early. We saw it with Sydney last year. I reckon I sat on the round so far and said, look, this is as good a team as I've seen. Like, they're just unstoppable. But that was round 11, 12, 13, and then teams work you out and sort of work out the way you're playing and how to combat that. So that would be the only concern for Collingwood. But right now, their football is the best football of anyone.
All right, Kane, thanks so much. We'll say goodbye to you from the MCG. That's been First Up with Kane Cornes. Thanks to Sportsbet.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.